they were hampered by two major problems. The Israelis were jamming U.S. Navy communications frequencies.
Okay.
If there's, go ahead.
We were jammed not only on our operational frequencies, which are technically not classified because the FCC allocation table will list United States naval frequencies in there. Nothing is classified in the ether. The frequencies, if you're going to be on it, except for pirate stations, are actually printed in a book. The FCC has that information. We were also jammed on 500 kilocycles, the international distress frequency, a violation of international law. During the rocket attacks, the radio jamming on our operational frequencies, we could not get any messages out. During the actual rocket launchings was when it stopped, when we were able to, and our guys were turning around, the ETs and the radio men, we were trying to get a cable, steel cable, which was our antenna line, into position. Glenn, Ollie, was knocked off the mast twice. You're giving me a lot of credit, and that man deserves a lot more. You can't dial 911 out in the middle of the ocean. You're taught firefighting, you're taught damage control. If you do what you have to do to save the ship, you are indispensable. When the attack started, like I said, I was laying out on deck, went down below, about 15, 20 minutes, opened up the door to Radio Central, and that's when, like Ernie said, he heard the first rocket, the first cannon rounds going off, took out the 255-gallon drums on the starboard side of the ship. The bulkhead outside of Radio Central and inside of Radio Central blistered, and fortunately it did not flash into fire, but bubbled. It melted a 1-inch piece glass porthole, melted it. Immediately we ran to general quarters, and that's that big klaxon along, general quarters, man your battle stations. This is not a drill. My general quarters station was right next to that door going into the CT spots on the port side of the ship. When that torpedo hit us on the starboard side of the ship, it was directly opposite my general quarters station. Had it come in the port side, you would not be listening to me right now. That was open to the sea. Fortuitous on my part. Why? We don't know. Every survivor asked the same thing. Why did I survive? The only thing that was told to me is so we can continue to tell the story, to get the truth. That's all we want. That's all we want out of this, is the truth. If we are wrong in our assumptions, and I don't think so, the attack was intentional. Our government covered up that fact. We want the truth. I think we deserve it. The American people deserve it, so it never happens again. Unfortunately, it does.
I want to talk a little bit about the transmission that they got off. They figured out when the jamming was occurring, and they managed to get in a mayday. But in order to do that, they needed an antenna to get out on, to transmit on. What the first thing that the Israeli planes did was, one of the first things they did was to shoot out every single antenna, every single whip antenna. There was one whip and when I say shoot out, I mean these antennas were laying over. There was one antenna still standing, but there was a bullet hole through the Bakelite base of the antenna, but it was still there. One of our electronic technicians, Petty Officer Terry Helbridier, dodged machine gun fire and rocket fire to run a transmission line to that antenna. And that was the antenna that we were able to get out on. When we talk about it's miraculous that we're here, that's the kind of thing that I'm referring to. Now, that motor torpedo boat that put the torpedo on our side, that incident killed 25 of the CTs, Marines, and the NSA fellows. That area was flooding, as you could imagine. Racks had toppled over with equipment, heavy racks had toppled over with equipment. We had a Marine on board, one of the linguists that we picked up in Spain. Sergeant Bryce Lockwood received the Silver Star because he repeatedly went back into the water looking for any movement of anybody that was trapped so he can bring them up. And finally, after he brought up Joe Lentini, another one of our friends, they told him, "We've got to close this hatch because the water's about to come over the hatch." After a pause, our captain gave the orders to prepare to abandon ship. Lieutenant Lloyd Painter popped open an external hatch to see if it was safe to release the life rafts. To his chagrin, he witnessed a motor torpedo boat machine gunning a life raft that floated astern. Life rafts were not an option, as they were now unusable. But with steaming power intact, and the fact that the ship seemed to be holding its own, the captain did not give orders to abandon ship and requested engineering to provide all available power. Our boilers were still functioning, and all the boilers were put online, and we were going to get out of there as fast as we could. If the ship was going to sink, he wanted to be in deeper water to prevent the Israelis from obtaining Liberty's secret equipment and documentation. Very important. Fortuitously, the Israelis intercepted an invalid message that U.S. help was on the way. Remember, we sent off a mayday to the Sixth Fleet, and they did receive it. I'm going to get into what happened when they got it, but they did say that help was on the way. So the Israelis reluctantly terminated the attack. Ironically, we did not get help for 18 hours after the attack, when the Liberty was only 15 minutes away from the USS Saratoga and USS America fighter jets.
If you're interested in the continuing cover-up of the attack on the USS Liberty, go to our website, thestruggle.org, for important links, including one of an article that I wrote for counterpunch.org, where I called for the arrest of former Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara for his betrayal of the sailors of the Liberty. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller, and this is The Struggle.